Imagine you're working on this report and you're beginning to build some formula logic. You start by creating a revenue formula, and then you build some conditional formula logic that says that if the line item occurred in January, you want to return the revenue, otherwise 0. That's this column, and the logic is here. So if month of order date equals 1, then revenue else 0. And you have another conditional formula that returns 1 or 0. So that's the Jan 1 0. If month of order date equals 1, then 1 else 0. You now want to generate these two columns or these two formulas for each month. So you're faced with a challenge of creating 11 more pairs of formulas or 22 more formulas. And you don't want to do this manually. So let's see how Visual Cut can facilitate this process for you. So if I switch to Visual Cut and I right-click this particular report and select Inspect and Update Fields and Expression in this report. But in this case, let's just focus on formulas and SQL expressions. So I'm going to turn on this previously used filter in this grid. And here are those formulas that we looked at. Take the Update Text and Expressions drop-down and select Export Formula and SQL Expressions. This existing Excel file, I'll just overwrite it and click Save. Here's the Excel file that got generated by this export. We get a column for the report, the sub-report, the object name, the object type, and the expression. Now, this may be useful for documentation, but we're going to actually use it as a basis for generating multiple variations on these formulas and then re-importing them into one or more reports. So I'll close that and focus on the result of working with the Excel file. In yellow here, you see the prototype, the January val 0 formula and its expression. And really, when you go through the process of preparing content for re-import into Crystal reports, the only columns that matter are the object type, and the expression. And they need to be located on column C, D, and E. The stuff that you see on the left and on the right hand side is just for documentation purposes and as help for generating those formulas. So what I've done here is, in this cell, I want to generate another formula name, but I don't want to type it manually. So what I'm doing is I'm referring to the cell above me where the yellow formula name is appearing, Jan val 0, and I just want to find Jan and replace it with February, or FEB. And the logic is handled here. What I did is I entered the name Feb, and let me show you how this is done manually here. In Excel, if you type Feb in a cell and drag down, it will populate month names automatically. So the expression here is substituting the piece of text Jan with what it finds in this cell, Feb, and as you copy down, and let me demonstrate, it keeps referring to a different cell here and generates new formula names for me. Well, in a similar way, I can look at the prototype logic in that formula here, and everywhere I see equal 1, I want to replace it with equal and this number. And that's what this formula logic tells me. It says substitute when you find in this cell, in the yellow cell above here, when you find equal 1, replace it with a literal equal space and what I find in H6, which is this number. So because of that, it becomes equal 2, equals 3, equals 4, and so on. So back in Visual Cut, I'll right-click, invoke the Report Inspector for all reports in the directory tree, select this folder, and I know that in this folder there are 4 reports. So they're now being scanned, one after the other. And the filter maintains its previously selected option of showing only formulas and SQL expressions. You can see that one of these reports is the original report that we use. It already has the January expressions and the revenue. The other 3 do not. If I uncheck this option to filter, you can see that these reports have a lot of other objects that I'm not focusing on right now. So going to the Update Text and Expressions drop-down, I'll click Import, and it asks me, okay, what should happen if a report already has a matching formula or SQL expression with the same name? If I click Yes, then whatever gets imported from Excel will update the expression. I'll click No to skip. And it now asks me, okay, do you want to import, but from which Excel file? And I'll pick the one that we just saw earlier. And now it gives me the full update here when the process finished. 4 updated reports were saved to this temporary folder with 3 skipped updates. And if I click yes, it's going to open the new folder in File Explorer. And here are the 4 reports. But in the background, as you can see below this screen, it is actually running and inspecting those 4 reports. I can see now that these 4 reports indeed have all the additional formulas that were provided from Excel. And just to confirm within Crystal, if I open these reports, I can see all those formulas for each one of them are now available. So you can see how you can very quickly generate definitions in Excel, import them, and avoid manual handling of creating those formulas one by one in Crystal.